Morning. Glad you guys are with me today. Monday, we did like a moon salutation with a little bit of a sun out element due to the eclipse that we had over the weekend. That full moon was in Scorpio. Full moons can already make us feeling more abundant energetically, but they can also agitate our mood swings and our emotions a little bit. And Scorpio can be pretty intense, and it's a water sign. Water is about emotions. I was mentioning Monday, not everybody's going to be affected the same way. But what I discovered after teaching on Monday was something that I wanted to bring up today. And it's that I was reading this article by a Vedic astrologer, and Vedic astrology is a little bit different from Western astrology. But in the Vedic tradition, they say that when Buddha became enlightened under the Bodhi tree, it happened during a full moon in Scorpio. So I wanted to talk about that a little bit, since it goes back with what we just experienced over the weekend. So if you know the story, or you may not know the story, I'm going to be very, very brief about this. The Buddha he became the Buddha. Buddha, by the way, means the awakened one. And it was his enlightenment that created kind of his status in this whole philosophy named Buddhism, right? We often see those statues of the Buddha, and the statues are not to worship the man that became the Buddha. It's really about being a reminder of the teachings. So it's just a reminder of the teachings, just like the cross is symbolic and a reminder of the death and the resurrection of Jesus, right? So it's more symbology than anything. So when Prince Siddhartha, because that's who became the Buddha, was this person, Prince Siddhartha. He was a prince, right? He was the son of a king and a queen. He lived in this kingdom. He had this very affluent life. He had all these riches around us. He had everything he could ever imagine or want. But he was also very highly protected. And at some age, I'm wanting to say when he was a teenager, I don't know that for a fact, because I didn't review the story, but from my memory, when he left the grounds that he grew up on and he went out into the village, he was shocked. He actually got distressed because he started to see how much suffering was amongst the people. He understood at that point there was a large amount of disparity between the way he and his family were living and the way the villagers were living. And he saw sickness for the first time. He saw death for the first time. He saw suffering and diseases for the first time. And through that story, he seems very empathic. And he was so concerned and distraught over this, he decided he was going to renounce his riches and his status. And he was going to walk away from everything that was being handed to him because he wanted to understand and he wanted to help humanity. And so when he left the grounds, he started to discover there were spiritual practices and disciplines. And he started partaking in all of this. And at the age of 35, he sat under the Bodhi tree for about 49 days and became enlightened. So them saying that it happened during a full moon in Scorpio, it's a pretty intense time, right? Think about all the emotions. I had a lot of emotions over the weekends. I'm super sensitive, energetically. And they came out of nowhere. They literally hit me like a freight train out of nowhere. And I was like, what is this? To me, that's the way he felt when he went to go sit underneath that Bodhi tree. He was so just, what is happening? And then he got this download of all this knowledge and all these teachings. And therefore he started teaching people how to reduce suffering. Now, Buddha was around before Jesus. Yoga was around before Buddha. So the yogic teachings actually precede Buddhism or the Buddha. So when Buddhism was created, they started to adopt some of the yogic ideas and philosophy. So if you ever study the 8-lung path of yoga, right, 8-lung path of Ashtanga, you'll see that there's an 8-lung path also in the Buddhist philosophy. So they have things that are very much in common, such as going within, developing a relationship with your higher self, trying to gain self-realization or trying to gain some enlightenment. Now, we may not receive the enlightenment of the Buddha, but we may have moments of epiphanies. We may have aha moments of great and deep insight. We may be able to expand out enough and out of our limited perspective in order to see a broader perspective. And therefore we become more enlightened that way, right? So there's all different forms of enlightenment. So because I'm bringing this up today, I want us to work on a pose called Siddhasana, because Siddhasana is named after Siddhartha. So we'll eventually get there. We're going to be mostly passive today, but a little active as well. And we're going to start in a passive crocodile pose, laying out over a bolster. So if you would please take your bolster across your neck. We don't really need the blocks quite yet. But we're going to take the top of the thighs and the rim of the pelvis, where the hip bones are aligned, right to the edge, so that the belly and chest spill down. The feet are going to separate out. Your arms can cross to provide a headrest. Some people enjoy goddess arms and laying down on one cheek. You can also do that instead. Just please remind yourself to eventually swap to the other side so that you're balancing out the stretch in your neck. So once in this position, go ahead and close your eyes. Checking in with your body to see if you need any other types of support or adjustments. And then if not, begin to focus internally on your breath. Breathing in and out. Primarily through the nose, unless you need to utilize your mouth. Feel the belly swell as you breathe in. Feel it relax as you breathe out. Notice on your inhalation, you may feel a little lighter in your upper body as your lungs expand. But then you may feel a little heavier in your upper body as the lungs contract and you spill down closer to the earth. So just recognize those little subtleties. And if you've been residing on one cheek, go ahead and turn to the other. Otherwise, stay resting on your brow. At the brow is a marma or acupressure point that helps to induce some mental peace. That mental peace can come when we create more inner freedom, more space, less attachment towards the thoughts that are circuiting through. Take about 5 more breaths.
Sliding your hands up underneath the shoulders, neutralizing your neck before you push up away from that bolster. Once you come up more towards like a tabletop position, you're going to turn the bolster the other way. Long ways, and you're going to shoot it a little bit more forward as you align to a tabletop position. So I would suggest maybe creating that L-shaped formation between your index fingers and thumbs to frame the edge of the bolster. Make sure that your knees are lodged up underneath your hips. You have a nice long vertebrae. We're going to move towards Anahatasana, melting heart, but we're going to provide a headrest with this bolster. So the arms are going to now walk out in front of us. You can let your elbows spill to the floor and your brow descend down to the pillow. Your belly is swooping down towards the mat. You're sinking into your chest and shoulders. Noticing, even though we're making it restorative to place the head on top of this pillow, it's still going to provide a lot of work for the chest, for the arms, for the shoulder region. So it's not quite Sphinx arms. So if the elbows are lined up underneath the shoulders, you may want to slide your hands farther away so that you're bringing that synovial fluid into the shoulder joints. You're exercising this connective tissue. So we're getting a heart opener, but we're also gaining the benefits of being in an inversion. This is one of those poses we're not going to hold as long because of the sensation that builds. So let's just hold it for about 5 more breaths. After those 5, you're going to inhale, push down through your hands, lift up through your shoulders and chest. As your head lifts off the prop, your hands are going to walk back more in that tabletop position. You can slide the bolster away because now we're going to curl the toes under and launch into downward facing dog. Now from downward facing dog, go ahead and pedal the feet or walk it out. Maybe bending one knee, straightening the opposite leg. Eventually returning to a regular downward facing dog, pressing through the hands and the feet and guiding that energy up and away into your sits bones. Head bowing between the arms, the eyes can be open or closed. Now walk and travel the hands back in the direction of the feet. Let your heels land. Let your legs be fairly straight as you pour over and down. Nod your head yes. And then bring the head to stillness. Give a little roll to the shoulders. Purposely try to draw the top of the sternum a little lower towards your knees and chins. On your next inhale, root down through the feet and rise all the way up to upward worship. Exhale, fold back down into Uttanasana. We're gonna do that 2 more times. Inhale, circle the arms up. Come to upward worship, keep grounding your feet, lifting through your knees. Exhale, fold. Trying to keep the legs nice and firm. Once more, inhale, lift up. Exhale, swan dive down to your Uttanasana. From your Uttanasana, remain for a couple more rounds of breath. So then we're gonna walk the hands forward and out. When you walk the hands down the lane of your mat, you're gonna press back, downward facing dog. We're moving towards a downward scorpion, so pick up your right leg, scissor it up, bend that knee, create that scorpion tail at the top. And then when you're ready, slowly step the right foot to the floor. Other side, inhale, lift your left leg. Scissor it higher, bend the top knee, take that downward scorpion. And then exhale, unroll, step the foot to the floor, as well as your knees. So this is where you're gonna get to choose. Because you may need to be on your back, crossing one ankle over the knee for that half pigeon. If you want to do the regular pigeon, we're gonna use a prop today. So the bolster is gonna go across the mat. We step the left foot over. When you angle the shin down, you're squaring the hips. And your blocks can also be used if you need a prop to rest the forearms on. So don't feel like you have to spill all the way to the floor. If you do this version, you may want to rest in prayer hands. That other variation I mentioned would be like this on your back. The foot could be propped on the bolster, or you can tuck it in forward if you have that preference. So pick one of those. Since we're building up for seated posture called Savasana, it's one of our cross-legged positions. So that's why we're gonna work into the hips a little bit. Get them more manageable, more open, more free. If you're on your back, please don't overly pull, pull just enough. Stay gentle and compassionate to your body. If you're doing more of the pigeon formation, relax your muscles. Especially the areas surrounding your hips, so your quads, your hamstrings, your glutes, even your belly. And something to be reflective on. or contemplative with. Preferably something that's gonna calm and soothe and slow down the mind. But some of these more restorative shapes we're taking are not something that we can hold for 15-20 minutes necessarily, because we still have that sensation being fed to the brain. But relax into it as much as you can. Take it to the other side. So we'll slowly build up. I take my hands to the bolster and kind of pull up through the pelvic floor and then swing that left leg back around. Then I step the right foot over, heel toe it across, let it land on the other side, and then square the hips. Determining whether or not you want the blocks or not for the arms. If you're on your back, you just crisscross the ankle the other way. Hugging in if you want more. Just know if you have more or less density on this side, more or less holding on this side, more or less resistance on this side. Holding a few more breaths. Slowly start to back away. Once you stack onto your hands, pull up to the pelvic floor. Those of you on your back, you can roll over and lift up to sit. So what we're going to be doing now is creating a butterfly position with the soles of the feet together. And you know, if you're more open, you're welcome to go lower, but if you want to make it just more gentle, a little bit more restorative, you can bring the bolster up in a diagonal line just to rest under your brow, your arms can relax so that it doesn't become too intense for this longer hold. And some people even enjoy making more of a Stonehenge, and it can be different heights for Stonehenge. If you want it to come down, you know, a little lower. This is an example. So I'll let you kind of play with it and see what your preference is. Once you're here with your head down, your eyes closed, I want you to kind of flash into your mind different images that you've seen of the Buddha. Most of the images that we most likely see are him sitting in different types of sitting positions in order to meditate. Sometimes depicted in half lotus, sometimes full lotus, sometimes the easy pose, various cross-legged shapes, and sometimes depicted sitting in a chair with the feet flat on the ground, occasionally standing, sometimes reclining. And all of those various shapes and positions mean something different. For instance, the reclining Buddha represents birth, life, death, rebirth. Hold it for just a few more breaths. Now we're slowly going to back away. Scoot that to the side so that we have some space to flatten the feet and have the knees bent with the arms behind our backs. We're going to do the windshield wipe twist. Inhaling to one side and exhaling to the other. We have enough space between the feet so that your knees do not touch the other leg when they're moving side to side. All right, we're going to create a slide. But the slide isn't going to be as tall as it normally is. Because, you know, normally, thank you. You're so sweet. Instead of it being tall like this, we're going to have it lower. So more like that. Still in that T shape. So it's not as drastic of an angle. Whereas if you twist this way. So we're going to be turned so that the right hip is touching the bolster. Doesn't matter. Either way. As long as your right hip is to the bolster. But it could be on the front or the back side of your mat. And then we're going to turn from the navel, lay it down over the bolster, chest face down, and then figure out, is it possible to rest on your left cheek? If your body's resistant to that, turn to the right instead. Just allow yourself to melt into those props. To give in to gravity. To feel this support. And to gain the support from your breath. Slide the hands closer, press away from the props. Turn them on. Then you see stagger, stagger. You can also have a blanket in between if needed. Otherwise, start to spin around. So the navel is face down, the chest is face down. Perhaps attempting the right cheek. If that's too much for your neck or your low back, turn to the left. Trust the props will support you. Just send all your weight down upon them. Loosen your jaw. Relax the sensory organs. Instead of looking, listening, and feeling on the outside, look and listen, feel on the inside. slide your hands closer. Gently press up and away. All right, so I want you to consider, we're going to do a modified Siddhasana from a reclined position. I'm going to let you choose. Maybe you want to keep this slide for your back. Maybe you want to move the blocks and be more in a back bend. Doesn't matter. I'm going to show you from this angle. So, there's lots of cross-legged positions. This is easy style. This is the gentle version of Siddhasana. So, if you bring your left foot in and then your right foot in front of that, you can test it here on the slide and be like, do I need support for my hips and knees, right? Because if your knees are like this, they become taxing. So in that situation, after you test the waters, if you feel like you need blocks under the knees, you can scoot those away for instance, and then bring it like this, right? But it's not soles of the feet together. It's not butterfly. It's one foot in and the other in front of that. And it's also okay if you hang out in your hip joints as long as it's good sensation and not blocking your breath. We're capturing all of your attention. Just as the twist is a two-sided position, this Siddhasana will be a two-sided position. This will be the first round. So knowing that if or when your hips get unsettled, if they need to be straightened out, feel free to elongate your legs and wait patiently for the next instruction. Otherwise, remain as you are. Count 7 more breaths. the end of your 7, if you haven't straightened your legs out yet, go ahead and do so. And then point your toes on the inhale. And flex the ankles on the exhale. A few more rounds. And then you'll slide your right foot in first, and then your left foot in front of that. Again, checking in to see whether or not you need the blocks under the knees or a blanket tucked under for any additional support. Reconnect with your breath. Drop back down and in. So if you're swimming around with a lot of thoughts, our thoughts can take us out of body. So minimize the thoughts to be embedded in your body. Seven more breaths. In for 7, straighten out your legs. Once you straighten them out, you're gonna slide the feet back, but stay stationed on the soles of the feet. Separate them wide and do the windshield white twist from the supine position. Same thing that we did earlier, sitting upward. And then go ahead and roll to the right side of your body. Come all the way up to take a seat. And we'll try the Siddhasana now. So just kind of angle the legs open. I'll try to mirror you. Bring your left foot in. And then your right foot in front of that. All right, so this is the gentlest way to do Siddhasana, the pose named after Prince Siddhartha. Now, those of you that want to try to do the full pose, you can follow along. Take that front foot and stack it on top of the one closer to you. That's the next step. That may not work for your knees because when you bring that foot now in, feel there's just more flexion here that may or may not work for you. If it does, great. You're gonna tuck the toes in between the thigh and the calf, keeping the feet warm. And then if you lift the other knee with the foot on the bottom, your hand will slide under and pick it up and tuck it in this way. So this is the full Siddhasana. And one side's always a little easier to obtain than the other, so we'll try it on the other side. Lean your hands back, separate your feet back out. All right, this time bring your right foot in first, and then your left. See how that feels. Then if that feels good, why not try to double stack the ankles and feet? Maybe tucking the toes in between the calves and thighs. Just do the best you can. So obviously if your hips are tight and your knees are up, that feels like an impossible task, which is why I always recommend sitting on top of a bolster. And this is kind of my go-to is the gentle way. I prefer the gentle, actually. So let's sit upright to conclude our practice in this pose dedicated to the Buddha that became enlightened with the full moon in Scorpio. Transformative time. Hands resting downward. Just hold space with each other. Clearing the space in our minds. And then flip your hands open and take the Jnana Mudra for wisdom. We'll conclude our practice with the mini meditation in silence. Concentrate on observing the breath, rolling in, pouring out. hands together. We all walk away from this practice being free and at peace in our bodies, our hearts, and our minds. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Thank you guys for joining the practice today. Well, if you enjoyed